Are you the ghost of YouTube future? Tell me, spirit, whose dead channel is this?
Why, it's yours, Traben!
No. 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 No! It was a dream. Wait. What's that sound? You there, boy.
Me?
Yes, you. What month is it?
This month? Why, it's Festive Murder Mystery Month, Governor.
So I didn't miss it after all. There's time. Welcome back to my channel. I'm Traben. These are my tomes. It is Festive Murder Mystery Month, and today we're asking the question, can I solve Miss Winter in the library with a knife? Let's talk about it. A couple of caveats before we get started with the vlog. A reminder that this is not really a review series on my channel, more of like, can I solve the case? So I'm going to be pretty open with information for about the first half of the book, and then once we get closer to the end, I will kind of pull back a little bit with detail, but we are trying to solve the case. So if you've not read the book, if you don't want spoilers for the book, then this might not be the video for you. We are reading through Miss Winter in the Library with a Knife. This is a mystery book set on Christmas where a bunch of people in the publishing industry have gotten together on this retreat out in the middle of nowhere to do like a mystery game, and then a real mystery starts to happen. It has an abundance of puzzles within it, and we're here to see how many of them can I solve. So I'm going to throw it over to future Traben with our first update. Figured I was overdue a entry because I'm about halfway through the book now, and I haven't said anything about it. So I'll start off saying that there's something very interesting going on with both this book and this other one I'm reading right now, Murder by Christmas. This is like my advent calendar. It's got 25 puzzles, 25 days. And both of these books are dealing with two mysteries happening at the same time, or like two levels of puzzles. So for Murder by Christmas, every day you get a puzzle you have to solve, but there's also been a murder, and over the course of those 25 days, these are different investigations, you're supposed to be able to figure out who the murderer is. A similar thing is happening with Miss Winter in the Library with a Knife, in that the protagonists here are all people who are involved in some way in the book industry. We've got a mystery writer, we have an agent, we have a publisher, we have a critic, and they've all been invited to come to this small town that has this really weird trust set up and solve a mystery that like they've created. It's like a big party game. And you as the reader can play along and try to solve the party game mysteries. But then while they're at the retreat, this Christmas retreat, playing this game, someone ends up dead. And now there's the question of, was there foul play? Was there something going on? So you also have to pay attention to all the relationships between the characters. We have a group of 6 players, but we also have a group of 6 people like doing the administrative side of it. We've got a cook and a driver, the person who runs the trust, the person who created the game. So just different individuals who are involved in the creation side of it. I paused right before a big puzzle. Most of the puzzles in the game within the story I've been doing really well on. I don't know so much if I'm going to be able to solve the murder mystery, but I feel good that I'm solving the the story within the story. I'm solving all these word puzzles. Let me show you a little bit about what I've written up, and a reminder that this is less of a review and more of a glimpse into my slow descent into madness as I try to solve the mystery behind this book. So if you look too closely at what I'm about to discuss, you might see spoilers for the book. But this page, I've very professionally drawn up a relationship chart and put some key ideas between the different characters. So I know that's incredibly hard to follow because it's a jumbled mess, but there are the guests up here. So we've got 6 guests, and then we've got the Midwinter Trust. We've got the 6 of them, and I've put all their different relationships and different things that they've noticed. Now, in true mystery fiction style, there was a lot of dancing around information at the beginning of the book that has since been directly addressed, and the things that people have been dancing around in their conversations are now just being stated outright. But we know for the murder mystery, the main, like the real murder, that there was an incident 5 years ago with this same trust, and a number of people involved in the game, like the guests in the game, know what happened. A few of them are ignorant about it, and most of the people in the Midwinter Trust know about it, but there are a few people who were ignorant of it, which again, I find that doubling very interesting. There was a character who was investigating this, trying to make, I think, a podcast based around it, and that's the character that ended up, they found him dead. So now we're trying to figure out who has the motive for doing this. I do really enjoy, and has been cropping up more in recent whodunits that I've been reading, is this direct expression of fairness. So Bernadette, who is the game creator, in one of the opening chapters talks about how you have to be fair and you have to really give your players a chance, and what she's hoping to do is lose gracefully. She says, cheating can't be tolerated in a mystery game. That goes for the puzzle maker too. All the clues must be laid out before the people who are hunting the truth. Misdirection is fine, but solving the puzzle mustn't be so arduous that the player finds it impossible. Twists are part of the fun, but only if they make sense in the context of the mystery. My aim is to lose gracefully, so the winner is pleased that they've done something smart. Figure out the answer needs to reward you with a sense of fulfillment. And she also goes on to explain, like, it can't be the help of some animal or some rare disease that no one ever mentions or knows about. There's a very similar vibe in the Ernest Cunningham books, where he is a mystery writer, and so he talks about the rules of mystery writing and how he's going to adhere to them as he tells you this story, which is at once very nice to hear, but also very frustrating when you don't know what's going on. Where I'm at now, which is, again, about halfway through the book, I'm feeling like I've got a couple of characters that have done things and said things that make me suspicious of them, not necessarily as the murderer, but there's definitely something about their backstory, and there's a connection that they have that hasn't been made clear yet to this story. And the one that's standing out to me in particular is the driver, Frankie Rowland. She has mentioned her taxi service company, or her like transportation company, where the person looking it up couldn't find it. She's had some interactions with characters that we haven't heard the conversations, but we've seen her reaction to it, and it seems like she either knows more than she's letting on, or she has some connection that's being revealed to her as the story is going forward. The other characters so far haven't really struck me as like hasn't had anything that really stood out that is making me think that they are involved. The person running the game, Bernadette, has had a few lines that were a little weird, but she's also the creator of the game, so it allows for this like double speak where if she says like my crime isn't committed by doing this, and is she talking about another crime? But she does say at the beginning, her question for forming the game is who should kill whom and why. So I wonder if on some level she's like manipulating something to push other people to do this. So that's a thought I had, but she doesn't seem like an active enough participant in a lot of the scenes to be a good suspect yet. And I will say another thing that's really messes with this entire concept of what's going on is all of the writing that's in this book is, I believe, canonically the like within the frame of the story, they are the journals that the different characters are keeping. And so we know one of them tells us outright that what she writes in her journal isn't always going to be factual, and she isn't always going to tell the truth. And so that mucks things up quite a bit. There's been characters that we've heaped a lot of like, he could get away with murder and he's so smooth, that makes me think like that's just way too obvious. That's my immediate thought when they start doing things like this. There's also been a character mentioned that is kind of an offshoot, only mentioned in one scene, but she is the both the agent and the editor who are there. It was someone that they represented in the past that led to their careers getting ruined. And that's one of the things that the guests all have in common, is their careers are not going well right now. And so they're looking, there's a cash prize on the line. So they're looking at this game as a way of like getting back into things. But I think where I need to concentrate my efforts is thinking about who knew about what happened at the incident 5 years ago, who is learning about it now, and what are their reactions. Because I think that's what's going on with Frankie, is she's figuring out what happened 5 years ago, and she is learning, and that is what's getting her upset because of some unknown connection that she has. After all my pages, I've got individual pages for characters. Again, I haven't written too much about any of them. After that, I've got my puzzle page, and I was solving the first couple of puzzles at work, and so I've just got like papers taped in here. There was one set of information that I wrote out an entire like array of words, and they don't mean anything. And then trying to figure out just these different puzzles, but I was able to get one of the early puzzles like right away, and that didn't pay off until I want to say like page 150 or something like that. And now we've had a second set of problems off that same grouping, and I got that one as well. So I feel like I'm doing good on on these puzzles, the puzzles within the game, including there's something with the website that I noticed, and I tried to figure out what you could possibly do with that information. I think I've got something there, but it doesn't help. What I think would be really clever is if solving these puzzles in any way helped you with the main mystery. And I just don't think that's going to happen. There's not a connection between these things, and I'm doing great on this and feel like I'm going nowhere with this. So that's where I'm at right now. Next time I will bring out the board and we will put on all my crazy theories and try to solve it. So I think my goal, so I'm going to have a lot of time to read tomorrow. It's finals week, so we're almost done. And I think my goal for tomorrow is to get like maybe 50 pages before the end, maybe 30. We'll see how the story is progressing, and stop so that I can do more of this. I've gathered you all here at the accusing parlor because there's been a murder. Well, I mean, there's already one murder, but there's been like 2 more murders. And so we're getting to the point in the book where I'm only about 50 pages from the end. So we need to start hashing out some ideas and going over some things that I've noticed and some suspicions I have as to this point, because I feel like very rapidly we are going to start getting answers. What I've recreated for you on this board is my character relationship chart out of my notes. So we're going to just go over the characters real quick, and then we'll talk about some more recent events that have happened. I will try to stay vague on some details, but this is like me trying to solve the crime. So again, a warning that I will be talking about various plot points of the book. Okay, so over here we have the guests. Okay, so we have Harry Crystal. He's a writer of detective fiction. We have Baz Frederick, who is a podcaster, like true crime podcaster. We have Poppy Delisle, who I believe is a publicist. Down here we have Grace Kinsella, who's the editor. Zach is an agent. Zach Jardine is an agent. Here we have Carries Neville, who is a critic. So you can see they're all involved in the publishing industry in some way. And off to the side here, we have a character, Ravenna Gray, who was mentioned early in the book as someone who both Grace and Zach represented, and who indirectly, it seems, led to both of their downfall. So one of the things that the guests all have in common is they've recently come up against like hard times. Like they need to get money. Their careers are in decline for one reason or the other. And the only direct relationship we have there is that it was Carrie's review of Harry's work that led to him kind of like losing steam, although he admits that his writing is kind of derivative anyway, and so it wasn't like he was making huge amounts of money, but her very negative review did not help. All right, over on this side we've got the Midwinter Trust. So we've got Jeremy Vandervelde at the top here. He's the head of the trust. I put president here, but head of trust. We have Chandra Masood, who I can't remember what her role is, unfortunately. I don't have much on her. Daisy Wu is the cook. Frankie Rowland is our driver. Bernadette Corrigan is our game master. She's the one who's creating the game within the book for the guests to solve, which I've been crushing mostly. And then we have Ethan Swift, who's our psychiatrist. Let's talk about some of the connections I felt were important to put on here, just as a way of like keeping track of who's who and like what relationships they've had. Now, I will say, like, the last update, we had already had one murder, so we know that Baz is dead. And if you recall from my last Can I Solve, a dinosaur means that you're dead. So Baz was the first one off. It seems like these characters we start learning something about them, and then they get killed. Like, we think, oh, there's something going on, and then that character is killed, and then we start developing another character, and we're like, that's really interesting. I wonder what that's about. And then that character gets killed. It's a very like tried and true formula. But the big thing with Baz was that he was investigating a death that happened 5 years ago. There's this incident that keeps being brought up, and like, who knows about the incident? Who doesn't know about the incident? And so we learn that there was a young man 5 years ago who like ran off into the woods and froze to death, I believe, like died from exposure. And the Midwinter Trust was exonerated of all fault in that case. But there's still a lot is hinging on that. A lot is surrounding that. And so the presumed reason for Baz getting killed is that he was pursuing this for part of his True Crimes podcast. And there was already an injunction placed on him from the Midwinter Trust. I put that as like coming from Jeremy here, to stop doing this investigation. So that seemed to be the motivation there. There might be something more. And then over here we had these two were representing this character that hasn't been brought up again. But I feel like is going to be significant in some way. Both Grace and Zach were in talks with Baz about helping publish a book based on this incident from 5 years ago. And so they are both in the know about what happened. I believe Carrie's also new, and we're not sure how she was looped in. But there are certain characters that did know about this incident and certain characters that didn't. And I think that's supposed to be an indication of whether or not they are going to be targeted, maybe. Like, knowing about this background information seems significant for whether or not you are being pursued by whoever the killer is. So that's most of what is going on the guest side, as far as I've seen. Now, we will come back to Poppy, because she has said some stuff in her journals that is very suspect. But over at the Midwinter Trust, man, this place is a mess. Okay, so Ethan here, he despises Jeremy. He like outright says that in his parts of the book. He encouraged Bernadette to create the game. Jeremy has had relationships with like all the women except for like the newest one they brought on. So first he was pursuing Bernadette, and then after that it was Chandra, and then after that, like currently it's Daisy, although we've learned some things about that relationship more recently as well. Both Daisy and Frankie are the two newest members, and it didn't appear that they knew about the incident from 5 years ago, although again there's been some recent revelations that have shaken that up a little bit. So one of the big mysteries, like outside of the murder mystery has been, what is the Midwinter Trust? Because they talk about how they're there to make the world a better place, but they don't seem to do anything. And I will say that the reveal of what the Midwinter Trust is satisfying enough. It makes sense and it works for me. And it plays directly into some of this background information as well. We've also revealed information about Will Noon, who is the person who died 5 years ago. So we will put up Will here somewhere, okay, so we can reference him. So this is Will. He's also dead, so he'll be a little Spinosaurus. And there are... So this is from the incident 5 years ago. There's also been some more recent revelations about Will's identity and Will's role in all of this, and it's pointing toward a certain conclusion. So the question we currently have to ask ourselves, as where I'm at in the reading, is who was Will working with? Because there's an implication with his backstory, with the way that he ties in with some of these other characters, that makes it to where we know there's someone else who is aware of what happened, is convinced that the Midwinter Trust is to blame for it and is covering it up, and is possibly out for revenge. Now, let's talk about the other two murders. So from this point on, I'm going to get pretty heavily into spoilers. I'll put up a tag for when I get back to generalizations here, so you can skip forward if you don't want to hear this bit. So two more characters that have ended up dead. Ethan Swift. So the next one was Frankie, which was unfortunate because I was considering her for something. There was a line early on in the book where she talks about how she works for Karma Cars of Kinder, and it's all in K's, even though I don't think she didn't have anything physical to give anybody. It's all in K's, Karma Cars of Kinder, which I thought was weird because she was just saying it. And then when Harry went to go look up that service, he couldn't find anything. And that made me suspicious. And it's called Karma. So there's this idea of revenge or justice going on in the book. And so I was really leaning toward Frankie to be someone important. There's also recently been scenes with her where she got very agitated learning about something, and I feel like she's learning something more about the incident 5 years ago because she was just recently brought on. But I think she might be more connected than it seems. Unfortunately, like I was saying with Baz, I was pursuing this character as a person of interest, maybe there's something more going on with this character, and they ended up dead. And so that's problematic. Also showing up dead was the psychiatrist over here, Ethan. So he was very clearly dead. The other deaths have been exposure. They've one fell in a creek, I want to say, and one was just out in the snow for too long. I believe Ethan's face was smashed in. So much more violent death for him. And someone has argued that the motivation might have been that he keeps saying everyone's totally cool. Don't worry, they're totally fit to be out here in the middle of nowhere. Nothing's going to happen to them. And then things keep happening to them. So case in point, at this point in the story, 2 people are dead. And it comes to light that he also said that Will was okay to come out there for a sabbatical, essentially, and that he was mentally fit, and it turns out that wasn't the case. So it might be someone trying to get revenge for what happened to Will because Ethan is seen as fault. He should have recognized that Will shouldn't have been out there. My current running theory of who secret co-conspirator could be is probably Poppy. And I know I haven't said much about Poppy at all, but we know for sure that she is putting on airs like super positivity and like working together, but she's said in her journal that she wasn't going to always tell the truth in what she said. And she also has said explicitly, like, you know, things like her mask is slipping, or like no one knew her real reasons for being there. And it just seems like we're not paying attention to her. All right. So I think that's all I really wanted to cover with this part of the review, or this part of the deconstruction. Poppy and Frankie are kind of my short list for who is committing the crime. And I don't think I have all the pieces yet. So some of the more recent revelations that we've come across, like what the Midwinter Trust is, what really happened 5 years ago, I feel are things that you would not be able to solve just intuitively. I think we're still at the part of the book where it has to hand you some stuff, but I think we are getting to the part where we need to be moving chapter by chapter, getting more information, and then pausing and saying, okay, what does this teach us? What have we learned from here? So we're at the point now in the book where Harry is figuring out the mystery of like who is the killer, and he mentions something. He says something happened the other day that was inexplicable, and that he thought it was weird at the time, but now he really doesn't think it makes sense at all. And I went back. So at this point in the book, Poppy's big reveal has been done, and it's not what I was expecting. But also, like, within the context of the book, not super exciting because it falls in line with a lot of other characters' deep secrets. So I went back to thinking about how, like, Frankie was my other major question, and there's a moment where they're putting in Ethan's body because they're storing all the bodies in this freezer. They're putting his body up after he's been found dead, and Harry knocks a wreath off of Frankie's body, and when he puts it back, he says that Frankie's body, he can feel Frankie's body giving under his touch, and that it was eerie and creepy. That doesn't make any sense because she should be frozen. So I'm wondering if that's currently where I'm at. We've got another like 20 pages left of the book. So we'll see. And then additionally, I will say at the end of this book, there is a clue finder that tells you every single hint in the entire book. So I will be tallying up the clue finder and letting you know based on how many clues they sent throughout, how many I got correct. And I'll try to be as honest as I can with like, did I recognize this thing or not? Because I didn't write extensive notes. Oh, and I will say the plot within a plot, the Miss Winter in the library with a knife, I did solve that one. I did solve that mystery. So turns out if you just give me far less material to work with, I can work out a mystery. I'm feeling great about the mystery within a mystery, but can I solve this larger one? Remains to be seen. All right, final thoughts time for Miss Winter in the library with a knife. And I have to say that despite my terrible score on the clue finder, I really liked this book and I thought it was a lot of fun, and I'll get more into it in a second. So first, let me explain the clue finder. So in some classic murder mysteries, which I learned from reading this book, in some classic murder mysteries, there's a thing in the back of the book called a clue finder, where the author basically laid out every clue and hint that they gave you as to the true nature of things, these different mysteries you're supposed to be solving. I did terribly on the clue finder. I think there were 42 different clues. I think I found 8, and that did help me to solve some of the mysteries of the book, but it did not help me to get everything. And there were a lot of things in there that I was surprised to read again and find like the connections. Now, I will say, I think some of it is cultural, because this is a book from the UK, and I think some of the phrasing and the clever wordplay was maybe something I would not have normally picked up on, but there were a lot there that just straight up right over my head. Now, the other great thing about the book is that it has little mini puzzles for you to do, because it has a framework within the story where the characters are trying to solve mysteries as well. And those mysteries, I feel, are more direct. They're less material, so they're more direct, and I think they're easier to solve. And some of them are just straight up like word puzzles, anagrams, things like that. So even if you're a person like me who does not normally solve the big whodunit and doesn't normally pick up on these clues in the longer narrative, you can have fun with these minor mysteries and these little puzzles. And I did really good on the puzzles that were directed at the players, that were a little bit more obvious and a little bit more like straightforward, I would say. And like I said, I did find some of the clues. I think I solved like the most important things about the book. I did get to where I figured out who the main culprit was, but there are all these other things going on that I just completely misread, didn't catch on to these subtle insinuations going on in the story. Even when I found that I was suspicious of certain characters, like I knew something was going on with Poppy. Like, it's pretty direct that something's going on with Poppy. And even though I knew that was happening, I didn't pick up on all the things that she was saying and all the things she was doing that kind of clued you in. I solved the puzzle within the book. I also solved who the main antagonist was. And so I feel like for this episode of Can I Solve, it is a roaring success. And, yeah, it was a lot of fun. I would definitely recommend this book if you are a mystery fan, if you're a puzzle fan, especially if you like just like direct word puzzles and things. There was one puzzle that I spent so long on. There were underlined words in the website. There were underlined words, and I thought, oh, this is like a clue to something. And I put them together, and I made that to where it made sense, and then it's never mentioned again. And that was very frustrating. So I wonder if that was even meant to be a puzzle. I don't know. But it wasn't mentioned anywhere in the clue finder. It wasn't mentioned anywhere by any of the characters. So that was a little bit frustrating. And I could see, I've read some criticisms of the book that say that the mystery within the mystery kind of becomes less interesting as the book goes on, but I feel that's kind of by design. Like, when the characters' lives are in danger, of course that's going to be more pressing than like, oh, did they solve the fun little puzzle they were doing? But I appreciated having both, and I liked having both layers there. So I would recommend Miss Winter in the Library with a Knife if you're looking for some sort of like cozy winter fiction. It's a lot of fun. I like the idea of the clue finder. I liked the reveals. I thought all the reveals worked within the story. and ultimately I thought it was a fairly tight narrative, where they are dropping a lot of hints. If you're more eagle-eyed than me, you will probably pick up on a lot more of what's going on. So a fun read, really entertaining. Would check it out, and I solved it.
Thanks for sticking around to the end of the video. If you'd like to see more from Traben before his channel dies, click on these links. As always, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe so Traben can futilely grow this corner of his booktube community. And until the next one, take care.